I'm going to show you how to rig up for reservoirs. In California, if you live in the western side, you can go east of Sonora, outside Yosemite, Lake Beardsley, Lake Don Pedro. If you live in the Sacramento area or inland or towards the west even more, you can drive up the 50 or the 80, and there's several reservoirs. They're open year round. I like to fish them in the winter because there's nobody up there. And if you can get lakes that are like 6,000 feet, you get the whole place yourself, and it's wonderful. Now, when you're reservoir fishing, reservoirs in the summer, the fish are going to be down deeper. There's something called a thermic line where the cold water below meets the warmer water towards the surface, and there'll be a lot of plankton and stuff there, and a lot of shad, and then the food chain goes up and up, and then in some of the lakes near Tahoe, you got lake trout coming up and eating the trout. So you're going to want to fish a little deeper. In the wintertime, the lake turns over, meaning all the water's one temperature, so the fish can be right on the shore. They'll be everywhere. They're a lot easier to catch in the wintertime, and you catch a lot bigger fish in the wintertime. Fishing in the reservoirs in the summer, say you're camping with your family at one of those lakes or something, and you just want to go get a chair and sit down and kick back. This is what I do. I'll fish with night crawlers or PowerBait, and both of those that you can use are with, I use a slip sinker, and a slip sinker is a really good setup. Basically what it is in the beginner tackle that I did, you have the hook, the sliding sinker with the hole in it, and the barrel swivel. Those are the three components you need to make your slip sinker setup. I'm also going to be using night crawlers, using the worm blower I talked about, because the worm blower will make the worm float up off the bottom. So the first thing we want to take that barrel swivel, slide it on the line, I mean the slip sinker, slide the slip sinker on the line, sorry. Next you take the barrel swivel, tie that knot I showed you. I was trying to get all my little pieces of line, stick them in my coin pocket. So, to this point, what you have is your barrel. You can skip this step. What I'm going to do is kind of see how deep the water is, and that's going to determine how long I want my leader to be, because your leader can be up to 5-6 feet. The longer your leader is with the night crawler, the harder it is to cast. When you're what I'm doing here is I want to cast this out before I start, and then count down and kind of see how deep the water is, and then I'm going to decide how long I want my leader to be. So I'm going to throw this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So it's a good 20 count. So we'll call it 20 feet. I don't know how accurate that is. so go 20 feet. So I'm gonna put a good 4 or 5 foot leader on this. So what I do now is I already have this on the line. I just let the weight slide down. I take off however much line I want my leader to be. I think I'm going to do a little bit of a longer leader, so I'm going to do about 4 or 5 feet. Biting the line again, as I said I shouldn't do. So then the weight's already on the line. You already have the swivels tight on that one side, so I took as much line as I wanted, cut the line, and then flipped it around and tied the swivel back onto the main line. Now the swivel is going to keep your weight from sliding down and hitting your hook. I mean, you take this down to your local reservoir, especially if they plant hatchery trout, you'll catch fish with this. First time out, set up like a pro, you'll be looking good. So, see here, I got the weight, slides down, stops on the swivel. See that? And then at the end of that leader, the open line, I tie my hook. It's getting cold. So however you do it, this is what you need. You need to have the sliding sinker, the barrel swivel, and then however long you want your worm to float up off the bottom. I'm going with a long leader. Now when you cast your worm, you're gonna want that line to get straight all the way behind you before you flick it out. And then if the line gets all crazy in the air, like you'll see the weights slipping up, just shut the bail and it'll stop it and it'll all come together, and then let it sink with the bail closed. Now, before you start fishing, especially if you're fishing in the winter time because you catch bigger trout, this is your drag, this little dial on the front. That determines how hard it is for the fish to be able to strip line out. See that? When a fish is running. So, what I like to do before I start fishing, but I don't always do it because I've been fishing long enough where I can adjust. You're not going to be able to adjust. You know, I caught a couple fish that were over 20 inches last winter that were just stripping line, like, bzzz, like if you weren't ready, you were done. So what I'm going to do with this is, before you start fishing, pull your pole and make sure line can strip off, okay? That means you'll never lose a fish because you know the line's gonna be able to strip. You can always tighten it a little bit if you have to. You know, you can tighten the dial a little bit while the fish is fighting if you have to. So we have that. Next, we get our bait. Now, if you're squeamish and you don't like the worm getting hooks in it and stuff, I don't know what to tell you. This is fishing. If you don't like the hook going into it, you're really not going to like the worm blower. That's just a matter of fact. But it's something that works good. So when you're putting your night crawler on the hook, I like to use a whole night crawler. I'm going to throw that on the ground so I can get up close. There's this segment right here in the middle, and then you have the dark thick part up front. What I like to do is put the hook right inside that segment, and it's the bait holder hook, so it has the things I said that go up the back. So what you're going to do is put it through once, hook it through again, slide. Each time you hook it through, you slide the worm a little bit up, and then you turn the worm, put it on, push it up the hook, so that your end result is a nice clean bait up. Then you're going to take the worm blower. This is the magic worm blower. Whoever patented this thing, because people used to use syringes to do their worms, whoever patented this thing got over, because they just got a little plastic bottle with a needle and they sold millions, I'm sure. So you just put it, I like to go for the thick segment, beef that up, and then I put a little bit in there, and I try to keep half the worm kind of natural. Now before you cast it, you always want to take because some worms float better than others. You always want to take the worm, throw it on the water, make sure it's floating. All right? So put the cap back on that worm blower, throw that over there so there's no way I'll find it when I need it next time. So my worm is floating good. So then I cast. I just grab the line and stop it so that everything gets back together. So I let it sink all the way to the bottom. My worm's floating up off the. Then I'm gonna get my rod holder. I already put it in the bottom. I put this rod holder in. Those are those spring-shaped rod holders. You can drive them right into the ground. If you can't drive them into the ground, you gotta surround them with big rocks and they'll hold tight. So, but if you get it wedged in good, you're not gonna lose a fish. I've lost 2 fishing poles in my day. One time I was fishing at Big Bear Lake and I was sleeping and I had 2 poles and I just kind of had them propped up on sticks and I just heard click, click, splash. I woke up, I looked, I had 1 pole left, I just went back to sleep. The other time, I walked out on the Crystal Pier, I had my anchovies, I was fishing in the ocean, I walked up, I put an anchovy on, I had a big slip sinker with a leader, I casted it out, these people walked up and said, "Oh, do you catch fish up here?" I said, "Yeah." I put my pole down, I turned to talk to them, and it went click, click. A fish pulled it over the edge. We all looked over the side, saw my pole in the water, swimming away. Hee-haw! I just picked up my bait and went home. What else do you do? So that's in there. And then next thing I'm gonna do, if I'm watching my poles, I don't put bells on them, but I'm gonna be cooking lunch now. I'm gonna make some sausages. Calories are out the door when I'm camping. I'm eating quesadillas until they find me dead from quesadilla overdose over here. I'm gonna make some quesadilla and stuff, and then I'm gonna sit in that shade right there, and I'm gonna pass out because I didn't really sleep good when I tried to sleep before I went fishing. So I'm gonna eat some food. I'm gonna there's already a bell on this one. I just clip it right on one of the eyes, and then if a fish bites, you just take it off, and that way I know I'm getting a bite. So when I put this out, I leave the line loose because it's got that slip sinker, so when a fish takes it, it'll swim away with it. So it's a pretty good deal. That works pretty good. So this is something where, you know, if you got kids and they want to fish or something, you can use this slip sinker setup. And it'll work for you. You just got to remember, it goes sinker on the line, the barrel swivel stops the sinker, and then the leader gets tied to the other end of the barrel swivel, then your hook. If you're fishing with PowerBait, I would use a tiny little hook, the smaller treble hooks, like the size 10 or 12. Put the smallest piece of PowerBait you can on there. I seem to catch some larger trout. You know, big rainbows will hit that stuff, especially in the wintertime. And it's a lot easier to use than a worm blower. And if you don't like the whole worm blower thing where you're doing the worm blowing up, you know, then maybe that'll help. So I wanted to get out and get this reservoir thing done because I know a lot of families go camping at reservoirs. So this is a good reservoir setup. I mean, if you're fishing for catfish or something, you can just make like a 2-foot leader and a slip sinker if you want. Slip sinker is a really good way to fish because it's just, you know, you can leave your line loose and larger fish can take it and they won't feel the weight until you set the hook. So, and once again, if you want to try to let more go with like a size 8 hook, a smaller hook, and use a whole night crawler. You'll miss a lot of strikes. And get the tiny little treble hooks, you'll miss a lot of strikes. But a lot of the hook settings will be in the outside of the mouth because the bait's getting ripped right out of them. So wintertime, fish are right on the shore in reservoirs, but in the summertime, you're going to want to go deeper, you know, 40, if you can count down 30, 40 when you cast it out. Some reservoirs you get by the dam, it's like 100 feet. So, you know, you make your long leader. The longer the leader is, the harder it is to cast. Just remember that. If you do like a 3-foot leader, it's really easy to cast. So that's your reservoir fishing.